Hello everyone, I'm Bradu. It's been a long time since I've done a video here. So I just wanted to, this one's going to be a mishmash of things, kind of a catching up and show and tell and maybe a little bit of drawing. I just got back from Hawaii. It was over a week ago now, but feels like I just got back because it was just kind of a two-week trip and just kind of, it was awesome, but I might get into the details of what I did in Hawaii later. Who knows how long I end up yammering away. But anyway, I did some sketching in Hawaii. I got on a little turtle kick. I guess I'll start with my sketchbook since that's right in front of me. But really what I wanted to do is a little show and tell of the cool stuff I got in the mail when I came back, trades and stuff. These are all sketches I did in Hawaii. We went to the zoo. Those flamingos were at the zoo, but the turtles and stuff, I just got pictures off of the internet that I thought were cool. Oh, I got some others here, but that was pretty much some of the sketches I did in Hawaii. I still managed to draw every day, which was a big goal of mine. But anyway, while I was gone and before I left, really, I started making some trades and buying some art from other artists, so I wanted to show that stuff. Sam Diaz, he's Sam Darts on Instagram. Did a G.I. Joe Snake Eyes for me. Aaron Lorich. This one was a trade. Did a couple Star Wars ones for me. Cad Payne and Salacious Crumb is one of my favorite oddball characters. Very nice stuff. These are, oh, here, let me show this one too. Oscar Chavez. Mr. Hackadoodoo did a Watto. And this was just a bonus, actually. We did a trade a long time ago, and one of the cards was damaged in the mail. And he just kind of, I guess he wanted to make up for that and send me another one, which was really nice. Because I wasn't, the one that he sent me before that was damaged was an extra anyway. So I was like, I told him about it, but I wasn't asking for anything in return. And then some prints. Not very many artists do prints, so I really love it when they do, and I wish more artists would, and I will get into that in a minute. Okay, you can't even see all these, they're taking up the whole screen. Let's see, we got Star Wars. Let me start with this, show a couple of times, Boba Fett. I like the Jawas especially, and the Tusken Raiders, always my favorites. Yoda, Chewbacca. These are from Tracy Hawkins. She goes by Girls Arts with Z's instead of S's and a little underscore. That was a trade too, I think. Yeah, I traded some of my friends for these. And these are a little oddball shape too. They're smaller, which I found interesting. I think she told me what printing company she went through, and that was a standard size they offered or something. So it's funny. It's obviously not a trading card site. And then these guys, I don't even need to show their name. Mick and Matt Glebe, the Glebe twins. That's how you spell Glebe, just in case you haven't heard of them. But these guys are at the top of the food chain in the sketch card market. This is the best of the best. These are prints. Which I thought was neat that they're at least doing prints now. And they made them a little more affordable. They said they were going to do some. Well, I got some cons and take their prints. I got a stack of other stuff here. I know I've shown some of it, but some of this is recent too. I didn't put names on it. Nick Hernandez did an Ivan Koloff. I really want to do more old school wrestling ones. Man, I can't remember what I've shown before and haven't. Kevin P. West. I really love this Ponda Baba, the colors in his head. I like the blue and orange, the way it works together, and, you know, makes sense. They're complementary colors. I don't know. I feel like I've probably shown the rest of those. I could be wrong. Oh, and a couple of the things I have in the mail. This is funny and almost embarrassing to admit that this is what I'm doing, but I picked up a bunch of my own canvas collection football reprints. I grab these whenever I can find them cheap enough. Basically, I spend $1.50 or $2 a card, and if I can get them that cheap, awesome, because I figure I'll have some too. Some for my own kids when I grow old and die, and I'd like to have at least 2 of each card, because I figure I'll probably end up with 2 kids. Who knows, that's a whole other thing to get into. But those are, I can find individually, because of shipping, I wouldn't buy them individually, but if I get a lot for $10 or for $15 for 10 cards, awesome. This is really cool too. Jake Parker's Drawings 3. I love this book. He's just got some really cool sketches in here. And it comes with a bookmark. I bookmarked the Star Wars section. He's got this really cool section where he draws Star Wars ships as creatures, kind of from his imagination. He's a very creative artist, and I know I've mentioned him on recent videos, but I've watched a lot of his videos recently. I picked up his book because it was on sale, and I think that's all I have to show, because it was for sale, I should say. It's brand spanking new. So I guess I'll get to drawing, because what I want to talk about I haven't even talked about yet. But it goes back to everything, most of the things I just showed you. I'll be drawing Abdullah the Butcher, one of my favorite wrestling legends. I just said I want to get some more, like Ivan Koloff. Now I need a Nikita, right? I started this Abdullah in Hawaii. Actually, I was at called the Industry Summit. It's a big, not convention, what's the word for it? I'm not sure. Summit for sports cards. And so I got to meet people from all of the major card companies, basically. I met George from Cryptozoic, who I've worked closely with on all of the Cryptozoic sets I've worked on, which was really cool to meet some people that I've actually had contact with before. But I also made a lot of cool contacts with other companies and just met some cool collectors and card store owners, and had a guy come up to me and go, "Oh, hey, I've pulled some of your cards in my online breaks," and things like that. So it was a real neat experience. But that's not really what I was going to talk about today. Anyway, the reason I got a lot of drawing done is because it would be these, they'd have people come up and tell stories, or they'd have a conference where they're talking about the future of football cards or whatever. And so for a lot of those things, I could just bust out my sketchbook and start drawing. So a lot of the ones I just showed you from my sketchbook were drawn while I was listening to a lecture or any other sort of card stuff. I think what I'm going to do with Abdullah here, so like I said, I sketched it during one of those, but I never got to doing the markers. And I'll be perfectly honest here. I'm drawing, this is not what I should be drawing right now, but it works well for having something to draw on a video, because on camera, because I can show it. I'm closing in on a deadline here pretty soon for a real exciting set that I am not supposed to show or mention yet, so just got, I'll be fine. I made it to the deadline. I have 4 cards left to do, and about a week to do them, so no worries there. So it's alright if I take an hour here to work on this instead. But I do have a couple commissions I could be doing too. I didn't even know if I was going to draw it all. I didn't know how long I was going to show the cards that I wanted to show, and I just busted through them and didn't even get to the piece I wanted to talk about collecting them and trading, Instagram and all that jazz. So I just put this aside in case I got to drawing, and here I am already drawing. And I wonder if I should have made this a more specific topic video, because I don't necessarily want this to get lost in the shuffle of my artcast type videos where, you know, not that many people will actually watch and listen to the whole thing because I go on for so long. I think some people really enjoy it, but I think if I did a, you know, specific title, specific topic, short video, like maybe 10 minutes total, I'd get more viewers on that even if I wasn't drawing. And maybe I don't have as much to say as I think anyway, so we'll see. But I've been doing a lot of trading. Usually what I try and do, if I can find people who are doing this, is trading prints for prints, like the Tracy girl who did a bunch of Star Wars card prints that were sketch card sized roughly. You know, I don't know what we did, 10 cards or 11 cards or something. Like, she picked out some of mine, I picked out some of hers, we did a trade. Only thing anybody pays for is shipping. Everybody wins. I love doing stuff like that, and I'm pretty open on those because I have, you know, a number of my business cards available to trade that I can do easily without costing me, like I said, anything but shipping. And I'm pretty open to picking up, you know, a lot of different things in trade. It doesn't have to be Star Wars or G.I. Joe or whatever. I'll take anything that's a subject that I like, or honestly, even doesn't even have to be a subject I like. I traded once for a set of, was it rugby sketch cards, just because I wanted to see how the printing was, and the art was pretty cool. Can't remember offhand who did those. It might have been Steven. It was one of the Stevens, I think. Stephen Burkett. It wasn't Stephen Birch, so I think it was Stephen Burkett. It's like trying to keep Will Terrell and Will Terry separate. They're practically the same dude. Sorry, Stevens and Wills. Anyway, done a lot of trading, and also I've done a fair amount of buying. And that's where the stories kind of come in. I generally, in the past, haven't bought many sketch cards because they're just too expensive to collect as an artist, right? I'm trying to make money, so I can't really afford to spend too much money on art. I don't mind. I love, you know, buying, like Jake Parker's book was, I think it cost $30, shipping included, you know, including shipping and something like that. And this guy's put out a lot of great content that I've benefited from watching his videos. I love having, this is kind of how I collect sketch cards too. I love having, I don't necessarily need everything, but I like having at least one piece from each artist that I really like or admire or whatever. And so it's really cool to have a book from him of some awesome sketches, you know. So stuff like that, I don't have a problem buying that. Or like I recently supported Jeff Lafferty's Kickstarter for his art book that he's doing, and I'm excited to check that out, you know. But generally speaking, I'm not going to pay the prices that I ask for a sketch card from another artist because I'm trying to make money doing that. So I'm not saying the prices are too high. That's what I charge $60 for a color sketch card. I wouldn't dream of paying somebody $60 to do one. I don't care who you are. I just can't spend that kind of money on on sketch cards. However, here's what I've noticed. Recently, there's an influx of budding artists on Instagram doing these like sales for way too cheap. $10, sometimes even $5, sometimes even like $5 each or 3 for $10 or whatever. And so I've been getting some what I think are pretty ridiculous deals from some pretty talented artists. I guess maybe because they haven't really made a name for themselves yet. Like, I think it's mostly the artists who aren't on official sets, and they're trying to figure out how to break into the hobby. And I get asked sometimes, and maybe this is for another video, but I get asked, like, how do you get in, can you give me email contacts to some of the companies? And I think that's kind of a no-no, so I usually try not to do that. I mean, I'll point them in the right direction, but I usually don't just say, yeah, here's the email to get on Star Wars sets, because I just don't think that's the way they want things to work. Let's go darker. In fact, I'm going to go black on a couple spots. High contrast going. In fact, I think I'll even do Abdullah's shadow back there. It's kind of a menacing shadow. I like that a little bit. So, I have mixed feelings about those type of sales, right? And Instagram in general. When I first got on Instagram, I mentioned this before, I didn't like it, and it felt like, I think I called it a like machine. It felt like I would post art, and I'd get a bunch of likes, but very little actual communication, very few comments saying, oh, this is really cool, or I like the way you did this, and no sales. No, I haven't had, well, I hadn't at least, I'd have to think about that, had any sales where, like, I posted my art and somebody goes, I like that, I want to buy it, or what do you have for sale, or whatever. I guess I've sold a couple things, but nothing like I sold a number of my artist proofs for Topps Football through Instagram. But it's because I had popped into a chat room where they were opening football cards, and some of those collectors then started sharing my work on Instagram. So I attribute that less to Instagram and more to being in the right place at the right time with the people on Breakers who are opening packs, So Instagram has been tough for sales. Now, over time, I've gained more of a following and definitely had more communication and I get more comments and stuff now. And a big part of that is this trading that I'm doing, and that I'm contacting other artists and saying, hey, I like your cards. Do you want to do a trade? Either occasionally I'll do original trades, but usually it's trades if there's, if they have prints. Or I'll buy if they're doing like a $5 sale, which I almost feel guilty about, and I almost feel angry about. But I figure if they're going to do it, I'm somewhere in between feeling like I'm supporting them and feeling like I'm taking advantage. Because some of these artists should not be selling their work for $5 for a sketch card that takes you probably as long as it takes me to do one. I spend an hour plus at least, on each card. And a lot of the ones I've picked up for $5 look like they have a good amount of time and care and energy and skill put into them. And so there's one part of the reason I'm making this video is I want to urge those artists to reassess your own value and charge what you're worth. And maybe that means you don't make as many sales, and maybe Instagram isn't the place to get sales. Maybe it's that you haven't found the right social media platform to get your art out there more. I make more sales through Facebook than Instagram for sure, for instance. I don't think that's totally the answer either. It's not as clear cut or black and white as that. There's not really a right answer. But on the plus side, as far as, these new artists and Instagram and finding sales and things like that, there's been a big lull in the sketch card market right now. It's on the down. It's harder to sell artist proofs. Cards aren't selling for as much on eBay, generally speaking. Things like that. And so it's making it kind of less and less viable to do official set work, when it used to be that I could do a set for $5 or $10 a card, because I'd then get a handful of artist proofs that I could sell for $100, $200, even $400 sometimes. And now it's getting so I can't really do that, because I might draw 10 cards at $5 or $10 a card to get one artist proof that I can't sell for over $100, and it's not worth it. It's not worth my time. I'm better off doing more commissions at $60 a card, and maybe not having. I have a pretty steady stream of work, to be honest. But maybe not having. I mean, it's really nice when I'm doing a set and there's 30, 40 cards in a row. That keeps me busy for a while, right? I get individual commissions and sometimes smaller sets like that Lebowski. I did 5 Lebowski cards, whatever. But getting a big sale all at once that doesn't happen as often. That's more like the official set work is like that. So there's definitely a big lull, or that's another word I'm looking for that I'm missing. It's trending downward, and it scares me as an artist who relies mainly on sketch cards, almost exclusively. I'm probably one of the few who's almost exclusively sketch cards. And yet, there's this promising influx of sketch card art on Instagram. And I'm finding, I do routine searches on Instagram for sketch cards, ACEOs, artist trading cards. I use search terms like that to find people to trade with, to find art for inspiration, and just because I enjoy looking and because I'm curious, and all these other reasons. And I'm finding almost every day a new artist, maybe not every day, but you know what I mean. Often I'm finding like, oh hey, I'm seeing all these artists doing sketch cards. Never heard of that. Thought I'd try it. Here's my first try at a sketch card. And so it's like this new popularity craze thing on Instagram, and there's a lot of it is artists collecting and trading and interested in getting other artists. So it's other artists' work. So it's not necessarily that there's all these sales going on. It's more like an artist community is being built on sketch cards. But in a way, I'm starting to think it could change sketch cards a bit and open up new doors for how sketch cards are done. And I'll give you a couple for instances. Art Frantics is a company that's doing, it's kind of like art by artists for artists. It's sketch card sets. So I first heard of this maybe, not quite a year ago. They did wasn't their first one, but they did a Ship to the World or something set. And they had, I'm going to guess and make up numbers here, they had, say, 20 artists. Each, probably more than that, each do at least one sketch card. And then he printed up, I think it's kind of one guy who runs show. Printed up 20 copies of each boat sketch card that all the artists did, and then for 10 or 15 or 20 bucks you get a pack of these sketch cards. It's not the whole set, but it was an assortment, and it's kind of like a not an official set, but it's getting towards that, you know. And the artists, if I understood how it worked out, weren't getting paid a ton. A lot of it was more for getting the exposure and stuff. But it makes you start to think about what ideas and options are out there that are like that. And there's another one, the Mixed Artist Crew, that does something similar, where they have a theme, and but the only way to get those is to actually be one of the artists who drew on the set. And I don't think I understand the reasoning behind that. Either, but both of those ideas just kind of have me curious to see where this goes, and if this does lead to more new good things for sketch cards and for collecting. And I get the feeling these are not card collectors, but it's a community of artists, like I said. But if that could translate into some of them becoming collectors, or some of them kind of creating new collectors by getting on official sets and having people who are currently following their Instagram art suddenly see their artwork in Star Wars packs and then going to buy Star Wars packs. I'm using Star Wars as an example. It could be anything. I don't know. It just has me wondering. I see good and bad in it. You know, for one, it's like, guys, how am I supposed to sell a sketch card on Instagram for $60 when there's a bunch of you out there charging $5 or $10? And I don't want to make any sort of comment about the quality of work. I'm not saying that my work is better or that their work is better or anything of the sort. I'm just saying there's a horde of artists selling their artwork for dirt cheap and not making any money on their time or their cost of materials or whatever. There's artists selling sketch cards for $5 shipped. That means you're paying $3. You're paying $2.50 for shipping or whatever. $1 for, well, usually I don't use a padded envelope or whatever, but I use padded envelopes if I ship originals. But you're paying $3 for shipping. You're getting $2 to do the card. $2. Come on. Like I said, I'm mixed. Keep doing it, because I'll keep buying more cards to that. I'm getting a pretty cool collection, in my opinion, of really nice sketch card artwork for totally affordable, even on my starving artist budget, you know? But at the same time, it makes me want to see these artists value themselves more and charge what they're worth, not what... It's a trick. It's one of those tricky things. It's like you're only worth what people are willing to... Something is only worth what people are willing to pay for it, right? And I think that's where these people are getting stuck. They're like, well, I'd rather sell a bunch of cards at $5 than charge, say, $25 and not sell any. Well, I don't know. Maybe is it worth it? Do you really want to sell a bunch of stuff for $5? Maybe so. Maybe to get your foot in the door and get started. But I hope the people who are doing that aren't going to keep it up for long. Or I hope that you're, in the meantime, you know, honing your craft and your confidence, and getting to a point where you can start to charge what you're worth soon. All of the artists that I have bought from and that I've collected, in my opinion, are worth more than $5 a card. No doubt about it. So, I don't think any of those people are in the boat that they should keep selling for $5. I think all of them should raise their prices. And I don't know, they're not all going to watch this. There's very few of them probably. I don't know how many of them watch my videos, but it's something to think about. So if you're one of those artists, I don't know. Think about how important is it to be selling cards for $5? Maybe stick to trading. Maybe try a different platform than Instagram and make your sales elsewhere, and so you don't have to run these $5 Instagram deals. Maybe I'm really lucky and it's really hard to get sales. I do know that is true. I've been pretty lucky, but I also think I've worked really hard to get where I am to where I have a fairly steady stream of customers, and I hope that doesn't come across as bragging. I watched a video yesterday where this guy came across as being really pompous, and I think it's great to be confident as an artist, but you don't want to be pompous. So I hope I come across as like, a regular guy who's appreciative of how things are working for me, and not just like, oh yeah, I'm making a killing. I'm not making a killing, but I'm reaching my goal of the last couple of years, which has been to do art full time, and so that's a huge milestone for me. And I think I have bigger and better things coming right around the corner too. I'm just going to touch on this, but I think within the next month I'm going to be starting a Kickstarter for a project I've only mentioned to a couple people, but I'm pretty excited about. It does have to do with sketch cards. We'll see how that goes. I haven't run a Kickstarter before, but I've taken a little more interest in them recently. Like Jeff Lafferty did his, and it funded, and that was exciting to see because he's an artist. I consider him a friend. I don't know him outside of the internet, but we've had, long art conversations and done artcast together several times and things like that. I do consider him an artist friend. And I don't have near the following he has, so I'm not necessarily expecting the same results, but I also have an idea that I think could potentially be a real hit. We'll see. I just colored the wrong tongue, which is no big deal. I colored the inside of his mouth as if it was his tongue. This one's his tongue. I want to do the blood red, so I'm going to try and basically complete this as a grayscale drawing before adding in blood. So I don't know if I got anywhere with that. I know some guys take notes on what they want to say and come at it with a very organized approach, and that's not really me. I just ramble. Maybe I should start to do that, but I'm really liking Instagram. I'm starting to see a definite change and improvement in what I get out of Instagram in terms of when I post. It's still, more or less a like machine in my eyes, but I'm getting to where I post something. What was the one the Yoda I posted a few days ago. Got I think it might have even been over 200 likes, and I was like, what? It was one of my 10, 15, I probably did 15 minutes on it. It was a quick sketch for sure. It wasn't like a full detailed sketch card, and I got 200 likes, and I realize it's because it's Star Wars and because it's Yoda, but it still kind of blew my mind that I'm getting that particular one is what stood out, But I am getting to where if I post a sketch card that I consider good and complete and that I'm proud of, it's getting 100 plus likes usually, or close to 100. I shouldn't say 100 plus. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm getting real curious about some of these kind of artist-driven projects on Instagram, aside from just trading, which I do enjoy and I think is good and worthwhile, and I'll continue to do that as well. I've been talking to the Art Frantics guy for quite a while, and I don't know quite how it is that I haven't got in on one of their projects, because even if it doesn't pay me a lot of money, I want to do it for the fun of it, and to get some more of those, to get some other... I'm one of the people who wants to collect other people's art. Not every artist does. A lot of artists are like, I can't collect it all because I'm trying to make money here. And I like to collect too, but I also have to be realistic about what I can afford to put into collecting, because I'm trying to make it my own livelihood. It's a fine line. In completely unrelated news, I watched Ex Machina last night. I got the Fire Stick, Amazon Fire Stick or whatever from my brother. Pretty awesome gift, and that's the first movie I watched. I really liked it. Go check it out. I don't think I'm going to say too much more about that. Maybe I had to fill the empty space in my mind for a second with something else that was on my mind, because I actually just finished it this morning. I watched most of it last night. I've got a weird start to my day. I need more sleep. I got up at like 5 a.m., which is not normal or okay for me. I need more sleep than that, and I went to bed about 1. So I'm going on about 4 hours of sleep, and I'm used to 8. But I got up this morning and it's probably a record for me. I had a sketch card done by 7 a.m. because I got up at 5:30 or whatever and started drawing. So that's good. That was cool. And now I'll have another one done here pretty soon with this guy. And I want to get at least another 1 or 2 on the set that I'm working on done. It's always a huge relief to actually finish a set and get them mailed off in time and ahead of time, ideally, really. I don't want to push that envelope. And I did push that envelope already, because I've had this set lined up for a long time. I had sometimes it's like a big rush. The company only gives you a month to draw or whatever, but I actually had probably 3 months to draw on this one. And I was busy trying to finish up other projects, and I ended up just waiting to even start until I got back from Hawaii. And then it's like, man, now I got to do 20 plus cards in a couple weeks. But I got right to work and cranked out a bunch of them in the first week after Hawaii, and now I've only got 4 left to do. So I will have no problems completing that. Go darker on that shadow on the wall. Abdullah the Butcher. He is one of my favorite old school pro wrestlers, but part of the reason I think is because I never got to see him very much. It was like a rarity to see him. You'd see him in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated with these bloody pictures such as this one, and just think, oh man, that guy's hardcore. And I think that's what I liked about him. I've actually, as an adult, watched some of his matches, and they're pretty hard to watch, aside from the fact that they're good and gory. But what a character, Gotta love him. I've been disappointed with with the lack of interest in my wrestling sketch card series. I posted my wrestling sketch cards on a wrestling whatever Facebook group. I don't think it's a specific to cards. No, it was just like vintage wrestling collecting or whatever. So I posted up, you know, all my sketch cards right before I got my business cards printed. And a whole bunch of people were like, oh, if you get those, I probably had 100 comments the day that I posted them. Like, oh, those are awesome. You got to get those printed up. I want some. You know, I'm thinking, hey, I might be able to get some pretty awesome wrestling cards in trade for these or whatever. And then the next weekend, I had them printed up, due in large part to the huge, I don't know, people just were like, yes, these are awesome, I need to get some, you know, get them printed up, and then we'll work something out. And I printed them up, and not one single person from that forum, from that group, followed up on trying to get any of them from me. And I was like, geez Louise. I did my mixed sports set, and I did 10 cards that were baseball, basketball, football, hockey, boxing, and 8 cards that were pro wrestlers. Because all those people said they wanted them so bad. I was like, oh man, I can break up the set and, you know, do the, get rid of some of the wrestling ones, because I knew that, you know, Bruiser Brody is not going to have as much popularity as a business card. But if I was able to trade a bunch of the sets, wrestling sets, and get some cool wrestling, Leaf does really cool wrestling stuff. I'm going to give a shout out to Steve Stanley. Is that his name? The artist that does the wrestling cards for Leaf. So they're autographed. They're not sketch cards, but they're art on the autographed Leaf, or is it called Leaf Originals Wrestling? And I'd love to get some of those, both for the autograph and the subject, and mainly for the art to go with my sketch card collection, even if they're not actually sketch cards. So anyway, yeah, I'd love to pick some of those up, and maybe I'll go back and try again. But I was pretty disappointed that after all of that none of them actually followed through to try and get the cards from me. So I have a whole buttload of wrestling business cards that more than I need. Let's put it that way. I don't know who this guy is that he's gouged with his fork. I thought about trying to make it look like a specific someone, but we'll just stick to what's actually there. Let's see. I gotta take this to the next level here, probably by going in with a little bit darker areas and then blending them back out. I brainstorm about different ways to use markers and use, especially color. I'm doing a black and white here. This one's gummy. I need to get a new tip on it. But I've got a lot of ideas for things I want to do and try. This is one that I've talked about, I know, on my videos before, but not really followed up with, and that is that backgrounds. Every once in a while I do a background I really like, but most of the time I kind of fumble through backgrounds and keep adding more colors, or not necessarily more colors, but keep darkening until I come up with something I like a little bit more. But I'd like to get a more specific style that I know I can go to for backgrounds that doesn't have to be. It's pretty seldom that I actually use a realistic background, like what I actually can see in the photo. Sometimes it works, sometimes, like, I don't know, on a baseball one or something, you get a good sky background, or enough of a hint of the stadium back there that it makes it pretty fun, but I don't know, ideally I think most of the time I'd like to just do, like, I'll show you since I got these for the football set that I worked on. I mostly did these backgrounds with one or two colors that usually had something to do with the jersey colors and or another color that I thought would look good with that, or just a flat colored background. This one I wish I had done that way. I did the football field lines and I don't like that as much as, but I like most of these backgrounds. Philip Rivers, this is the original for this one's on eBay right now. Not mine, though I do have artist proofs available. That will probably be my next video, is drawing another artist proof, because as soon as I get this set mailed off, I've got 3 or 4 or 5 artist proofs lined up already. So that'll be good. Switch gears a little bit. Okay, Abdullah. Oh, I really should have given him a fork. He's jabbing his eye in, his finger in his eye, but let's be serious. We know that blood was done with a fork that's somewhere in here. If you know Abdullah and aren't just like, what the hell is he drawing? I'm just watching because of the art, not. If you know Abdullah, you know what I'm talking about. He always had a fork in his drawers that he would bust out when the ref wasn't looking. They never caught on. He had thousands of matches where he stuffed a fork in his trunks and pulled it out and gouged a guy. And yet the ref never did seem to find it. Gotta love pro wrestling. You know, his manager would distract him, and then the ref's too busy counting the manager out because he's on the apron while Abdullah's over there making a meal out of the guy. There's a Street Fighter character. I never played Street Fighter, but I have the G.I. Joe Street Fighter versions. There's a Street Fighter guy. Is it Dolphin? That looks to me, I nicknamed him the Diet Butcher because he looks like Abdullah the Butcher went on a diet. It's mainly the scars. He's got those deep scars in his forehead like that. So, I'm curious to see, maybe I should somehow post on Instagram that I have this video up and that I'm mentioning some of these artists. I'd be curious to see how they respond. I hope I'm not offending anyone. That's not my goal here at all. But I don't know. I think young artists or artists who haven't sold before, that's probably how I should say it, who haven't sold much before, are so eager to sell things that before they get their foot in the door with something that's getting them that exposure and getting them sales and stuff, it's like they're so eager to sell. And I remember the first time I sold a drawing. I think I sold it for $20, but it wasn't a sketch card. It was a bigger drawing. I remember that feeling of pride that, oh, somebody wants to buy my art. That's awesome. And I'm not saying that everybody on Instagram is like a beginning artist if they're selling their sketch cards for $5 or $10. Like I said, there's some really talented people doing it. But I do think that's part of it. Not that they're beginning, but that, if they haven't worked on official sets before and don't have that in and maybe aren't on Facebook or finding the ways to use Facebook to reach the right people, or maybe they're not using other forums or whatever it is, I feel like if you're just on Instagram, probably selling yourself short and maybe need to branch out a little bit more. I don't know. I search for sales now for Instagram sales because I want more cards. So I don't want everybody to suddenly stop doing it, but I kind of do. I don't think if they suddenly stop selling sketch cards so cheap on Instagram. I think that's it. It's kind of like the going rate on Instagram for sketch cards is $5 to $10 almost. I don't see too many people offering anything for sale for a higher price than that. And so it's set the market value so low, really, I guess is what I mean. But it's also, as I said, created this collecting aspect of sketch cards that's new and different from official card sets. So, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything different to say on that subject now. I think I'm just rehashing the same things I already said. But I find it really intriguing, and I'm curious to see where it goes. I need one of these multi-liners. I need the 0.1. I have 0.5, which I usually do my signature with the 0.5, and I have 0.05 and 0.03, which I do the very fine lines with. And I'm starting to realize I need one that's thicker than this line right here, but thinner than the one that I sign my name with. What else is on my mind? Well, I really want to talk about Kickstarter and specifically the idea I have for it, but I'm going to try and do it the right way. So I'm not going to spoil anything just yet. I've been watching Jake Parker's Kickstarter videos, like tips on how he did his Kickstarter and how he's suggesting that people run a Kickstarter. And so I'm going to really try and do it the right way. I don't want to offend my friend this is actually a personal friend who's also an artist, but I know her as a friend first. She's got her art coming up in a book, and she's got a Kickstarter going for it, and I didn't have the heart to tell her that the person who's going to be the author of the book, who set up the Kickstarter, just did not do a good job with the Kickstarter page. And I went ahead and pledged. I really want to support her, and it'd be awesome to have a children's book with her. Her art is really cool for that type of style, you know. And I've got a young son, and we're always trying to get new books for him, and so I was like, yeah, this is a perfect way to do it. But even when I pledged, I was the first one to pledge. I was like, I don't know about this Kickstarter page. I mean, the author, there was a grammatical error in the first sentence of the little snippet of the book that he posted on the Kickstarter. And I'm like, man, if you're an author, you gotta be better at grammar check than that. Jeez Louise. And I think that along with the fact that there are no tiers on that one, they're just asking for X amount of dollars and hoping enough people pledge that amount to fund the book. I'm very hopeful for her in terms of opportunities. I don't have very high expectations that this particular Kickstarter will actually fund. I just hope it gets somebody seeing her art that goes, hey, the artist is really cool here, and we wanted to do our book. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I kind of hope she doesn't see this now, because it would probably be hurtful for her to hear the reality of the situation. Somebody did say it, though. Somebody said she said, man, I really want to support your art, but that's one really sad Kickstarter page right there. And there was no other comments or anything, and I don't know. I don't want to go off on that anymore. I need to refill my C3, and I'm not going to take a break to do that, so we'll just work around it for now. Got a C2 that's close enough. Well, I didn't start Abdullah on camera, so I'm not going to be too... Sometimes I really make an effort to finish what I started on camera. But today I'm kind of thinking that I'll probably call it quits here in a few minutes and finish this up off camera. Maybe turn it into a speed time-lapse video or whatever. Sorry I turned this into an hour-long video, kind of, because I wanted, like I said, I wanted it to be about, kind of about sketch cards on Instagram and how that's working out, or not working out, or it could, I don't know. So I didn't want to, that's not an hour-long topic, right? That's a 10 to 15 minute topic. I do have a couple other ideas. I'm going to do a tutorial video sooner or later, or at least a fake tutorial. I'm going to call it a tutorial. I'd like it to be a tutorial to some degree, but maybe not the type of tutorial that people are going to think it's going to be. Doesn't make any sense if I don't explain myself further, but basically I want to do kind of a how to draw an eye. That's the tutorial you always see. There's not really a way to just draw an eye, so I'll answer that more thoroughly if I ever actually do the how to draw an eye tutorial video. I toyed with the idea of ditching these ropes entirely, but I decided it was kind of integral to the placement of the subjects and the fact like this guy's hand is resting on the ropes. So I stuck with it. But that's one of the things I want to, continue to grow as an artist in being able to change the scene from the photograph, the reference photograph I'm looking at, more than I do. I usually am pretty strict to the photograph, and the main reason for that is because I want it to look good. I want it to look accurate and realistic and whatnot, and the more you veer from the photograph, the less accurate and realistic it looks, generally speaking. But it's possible to get, a skill set to where you can change a lot of things and still make it look really good. And I'm not saying I can't do it, but I am saying it's not my strong suit to make a lot of changes. Use a lot of artistic license, I guess. So let's call it there. We're getting close. Honestly, if you look, it's got a pretty, I could still take it to the next level. Add some highlights. Need more detail in this hand. Add the blood. I'll probably do it on camera, like I said, to go to a time lapse. But thank you guys for watching. Feel free to leave a comment, especially on this one. A lot of times there's not a whole lot to comment about, but this is a topic that could, be discussed. So I am curious what you guys think about selling your art so darn cheap and the sketch card movement on Instagram. All right, thanks for watching. Later.